episode of Marketing Management and Money. I'm your host, Ryan Owens.
I'm your host, Ryan Murray.
All right, today we are going to be looking at a topic that we so lovingly call cultural marketing. It's one of three pieces of marketing that really encompass all of marketing.
Yeah, all ways you can market, we feel, go into three categories.
Right.
Traditional, digital, and cultural.
Right.
Now, this episode, we're going to be talking primarily about cultural, but let's go ahead and just kind of define these three.
Perfect.
So that we're all on the same, same foundation.
Yeah. Okay, so digital is anything online, right? Whether that's PPC or your social media, anything like that. Traditional marketing is offline. So you'll run into things like radio advertising or newspaper ads or your store signage, things like that. Now, cultural marketing, what we'll be looking at today, is a lot more subtle. It's a lot more ethereal. It's not specifically tied down in the world of small business and marketing. And so we're going to try to put some parameters around this and define it a little bit better.
Yeah, but it's exactly what its name says. Mm-hmm. What is your marketing culture?
Yes.
If you as an entrepreneur, if you have a goal out there, does your team believe in that goal? Are you all working towards the same thing? If your business touts that you have, amazing quality, but can't live up to that reputation,
right?
It doesn't matter how good your digital marketing is. It doesn't matter how many flyers you put out there. It doesn't matter if you've got billboards all along the freeway. Mm-hmm. It's not going to change anything because you're not living up to your brand promise. So
right.
The cultural marketing is saying, are you meeting customer expectations?
Yeah, and it's another way for your brand to be consistent, like you said in that brand message. If you introduce confusion in terms of cultural marketing, it's another opportunity for you to lose sales. Mm-hmm. Anytime you introduce confusion to your customer, you lose money.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
lose sales. So let's dive into this a little bit deeper. You kind of mentioned that you want your staff moving in the same direction. An analogy that you've used in the past that I really like is you're all rowing the boat in the same direction, right?
Right. And, I like this idea of, picture that, you've got people rowing the boat and you've got some people on the one side and the other people on the other side. And if I've got someone who is like rowing backwards,
yeah,
all of a sudden I'm like starting to turn, right? Mm-hmm. And I go in circles. But think about this one. If I've got someone who is rowing forward, but maybe they're rowing way too strong, I'm also going to start to veer. Like,
right.
We all have to be rowing in unison toward the same objective to make the boat go forward. Otherwise, we veer or turn or, capsize, getting a little bit extreme there. But the same thing will happen in your business. As your team, you got to look at it. Like, are people, are they clear of where everything is supposed to be going? Mm-hmm. Are they rowing in the same order? And I think back to kind of like, medieval war where they had the big drums to keep everyone on the same beat. And it's this idea of what does it take for you as the entrepreneur? What does it take for you as the manager to kind of keep things going together? So really when we get into this cultural marketing, we're talking a lot about the marketing piece, but also that management leadership piece.
Perfect. That is a perfect segue into the nuts and bolts of this. Let's get into some examples here. So, to run with the boat rowing example for another minute, it takes this planning. It takes concerted effort on the part of the members that are rowing that boat to stay in rhythm, to be in cadence. Same thing with the war 19 or 18, whatever. How far did you?
I went medieval.
I don't know.
I guess the 1900s were medieval.
Yeah. Today's day and age, with the right technologies moving, for sure.
My kids think it was. What? You didn't have internet when you were my age? Yeah. No, I didn't.
All right, let's pull this back in a little bit. So I worked with a entrepreneur. He was actually quite a successful entrepreneur, and I was moderately surprised at that. So this individual, he had a convenience store.
Okay.
He also had a hotel. He was into hospitality.
Okay.
Right. Restaurant, a few other things. Right?
So he owns all these things at the same time.
Yeah. So he's kind of has his fingers in all of these different
Sure.
things. Though it seemed he was somewhat successful, there was no plan whatsoever that I was able to identify that either existed in any of the individual businesses or in the businesses as a whole.
Okay.
Right. And that was clearly evident by the different feel that existed within each of these establishments. So you'd walk into the hotel and they were clearly going in one direction in terms of like caring for customers and things like that. You walk into the convenience store and that was like non-existent. And it wasn't that he was intentionally doing this. It was just at the mercy of whatever employees he had working there at the time. And so you saw things like high turnover rate. You saw things like a lack of knowledge of what the differentiators were for each of these businesses.
Sure, yeah.
You had no discernible plan or execution thereof whatsoever.
And here's the crazy thing with situations like that is it's so hard to know what sales you're losing because you never have them in the first place.
Right.
And so, he's got this convenience store, and sure, he was making money. I mean, obviously, he was making some money, right? But you look at how many businesses go through and, like, they're barely surviving.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of this is, well, what is this culture that you have, in this business? Are you really marketing your business through proper training, proper customer service, employee retention, all of these key elements? Or are you just like, forget
whatever.
It. Someone else will come along. If you don't want to work here, I got 5 other people that do.
Yeah. Well, and then when something starts going wrong, especially if something starts going critically wrong, it's really hard to identify where the hole is that you need to plug. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, because there are so many holes in the boat, to continue that analogy.
Yeah.
There are so many holes in the boat. It's, you don't know what to plug first. You don't know which one's the biggest one, which one is leaking the most. Mm-hmm. And so that was the case with this business. So he was actually, I found out later, he was supplementing these other businesses, the convenience store, the restaurant, with the profits from the hospitality side of things.
So, yeah, you know what this is reminding me of? The episode that we did just a couple weeks back, cash flow and zombie businesses.
Oh, yeah.
Because he sounds like he's fighting off the zombies right now, and he's like this close to, getting eaten by zombies.
Yeah. Just super funny. Anyway, so that leads me to the next kind of example that I want to portray here. Another client that I worked with was also in hospitality, ironically. He had a chain of hotels. This wasn't just one hotel. He had a chain of hotels. The owner, his office was located in the bottom floor of one of these hotels. And then there were several other hotels that went across a few different states. And as we went through each of these facilities, it became very clear that there were kind of 2 cliques going on here, right? Mm-hmm. There was the clique of everybody that worked for him. They were just chasing numbers, right? They were just trying to meet those goals that were set out. So there was a plan in place. They were trying to meet these goals, but that was their sole focus. And I was really curious as to why that was the case. And it became very clear once I went back to his office and sat down with the staff that he worked with on the bottom floor of this one specific hotel. And the second clique was him and the staff that he worked with on that floor. They all kind of colluded, and his staff there were very toxic. Mm-hmm. And there was an incredible amount of fear on behalf of that first clique. They were terribly terrified of these people and what could come of any interaction with them, any misstep or whatever. You could be fired in an instant because of offending any one of them, whether that was through not meeting your numbers, not submitting receipts on time, not whatever, right? That also has a direct effect on your profits and your marketing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And see, the thing that's so interesting is you get these people that they think you made an interesting comment when you were first giving your example. And that was, you said they were their sole focus was just on hitting those numbers.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of times you learn in business and in leadership that you've got to have this myopic view, this sole focus of success. But the difference here is that, as you were saying, if anyone deviated from his plan, then it was off with their heads, kind of this this terrible approach.
Yeah.
And in the true leadership, when they say have a focus, it's a focus that everyone in the company agrees upon. Everyone is, again, going back to
everybody's on board.
On boat.
See what I did there? That was too easy. I had to take it.
It was nicely played. Nicely played. But they're rowing together. They're rowing in unison. And so, I look at this and I say there are so many times where you will see a poor marketing culture. And one of the symptoms that you'll see is the owner or the manager, the entrepreneur, they're going to have a goal or a vision, but it's not shared. It's not something that everyone has buy-in. Yeah. And so they start just kind of like shoving it down people's throats, and they're just like, you will do this or else. And it gets really toxic, and people start hating the environment.
Lots of turnover.
Yeah. And sometimes you get, sometimes you get some results, but they're very short-lived. In the Basis of Power episode that we did, this is the coercion power that we talked about. And so, I'd like to give a good example, because you don't always have to go this way. And, I've got a good friend who he's the sales manager for an Audi dealership.
Okay.
And he, in about, it was like 12 months, it was a year period of time, he was able to take them, and they weren't in a necessarily a failing position, but they were just, run-of-the-mill average for their region.
Nothing special.
Yeah, nothing special. It's like, we're not doing great. We're not doing poorly. And so they brought him on as the sales manager for this team.
Okay.
The interesting thing is that he actually doesn't have a lot of direct sales or marketing experience. He was culinary trained. He's a professional chef.
Really?
Yeah, and so
okay.
What ended up happening was he was kind of headhunted for his talent in working with people.
Yeah.
Like he's good at working with food.
Yeah.
But he's great at working with people. And so when he went in, he didn't put a lot of emphasis on, okay, these are the sales goals, or, okay, this is what we've got to do to hit our numbers. He looked and took the time to say, who's on the team? Do you have buy-in? Do you actually care about this company, what we do? And he started just getting rid of the toxic people. And, if you understand selling cars, it's a very cutthroat, competitive environment.
For sure.
Especially when you get into some of those higher end vehicles. It gets really kind of cutthroat. And he just changed the culture. And he's like, no, we're not going to have this. We're going to play as a team. And he went in and he made these changes, and within a very short period of time, the sales started going up, and now they're in the top 3 in the region.
Whoa!
Yeah, so
nice.
He's had great success.
Yeah, and that's a great cultural marketing example. I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and so cultural marketing is about the people. It's about making sure that people care about the business, making sure that people understand the goals of the business, that they have buy-in, that they believe that those goals are going to happen. And so this is really what we're talking about when we talk about the cultural marketing.
Let's take a look at some ways to make this actionable. We've talked a lot about examples of things you shouldn't do. And the only thing I would probably say there is take some time do a little introspection, listen to the people that are around you. Don't dismiss their criticisms too abruptly. Things like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Be honest with yourself. You might be a terrible person, and be open to that. Okay, maybe that's a little too far. Yeah. No, you're probably all great people.
You might have some area that you need improvement. You're so open with that.
Spoken. All right. But let's look at some really good ways to dive into making this successful. Your cultural marketing, a behemoth that's unstoppable, right? So the first and most key thing, I think, is setting goals, right?
Okay.
It's something that not nearly enough small businesses do or do right. You see a lot of small businesses that'll throw a goal out there, and it's insane. They're shooting for the stars, hoping to land on the moon, and yet they don't even get off the ground because it's just insane, right?
Right.
And so goals that you should set, you come back to that. I don't know. I kind of think it's cliche at this point, a SMART goal, right? But there's truth to it.
It works.
It's cliche because it's legit,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So if you don't know what a SMART goal is something that's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Yes, I had to look that up. But there's some very well-defined parameters around it, right? So what's another way that they can make this actionable, our listeners?
Right. So one of the things that I'm always thinking about with the cultural marketing is the details. And cultural marketing is about the details. Don't get sloppy. Don't get lazy. Whatever you do well, don't just do it. Do it like exceptionally well. Stand out with that aspect of your business, because that's a big piece of the cultural marketing. So I went out to eat, it was about 2 months ago. And it was a new restaurant, never had been there before. The waitress, she was just wonderful. Like amazingly intuitive. And, she came and she knew the right moments to come and ask, hey, do you have any questions?
Yeah.
She was spot on with her recommendations, and I've had the opposite experience where I've gone to a restaurant and I've asked, what do you recommend? And they're like, well, actually, I don't really eat here.
Everything's good.
Yeah, it's like, well,
they doubt it.
And so when you're getting those kinds of responses, you're thinking to yourself, if you don't eat here, maybe I shouldn't either.
Yeah.
But this lady, she really was exceptional at what she was doing. Now, not only did she get a great tip off of it, but also that's where I'm going to go.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guarantee you're going back.
Right. Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. And so that's the place that I want to go. So if that's your craft, be exceptional at it. Let's put this into kind of another example is, so maybe you're a manufacturer and you're thinking to yourself, you're like, well, yeah, I already do quality control. And so, how am I going to be exceptional at that? Well, look at your warranty claims. And
sure,
have a killer warranty process, or have an amazing delivery process, or have
if you believe in your product, show people that you believe in your product. Yeah. If that's your message, convey that message.
Yeah, and so if the industry standard, if everybody else is giving 90-day warranties, give 6 months.
Yeah.
And be like, we believe in it so strongly that, we're going to extend our warranty beyond what everyone else is doing. And
sure.
And those are the subtle little things that it's like, oh, you notice it, you feel it. You're like, oh, okay, I like these guys because they are exceptional at their craft. They pay attention to the little details.
Yeah, absolutely. Another subtle thing that we've been touching on, but I think is super important to making this thing successful. Something subtle that we've been kind of looking at here with getting detailed is also not getting detailed with everything that you can think of. Pick your top
thank you
one
for the clarification.
or two things. Don't go 5. Don't go top 10. Pick 1 or 2 things, your differentiators, the things that really set you apart. And you may get those ideas of what those are from past sales or your customers, or if you're just starting up, it may be feedback that you're getting from people that you're kind of pitching this to, right? Take those things that are your number 1 or number 2 thing that you want to focus on, the differentiator, whatever that is, whether that's an insane, no questions asked warranty because your socks are so darn tough, or because you have great customer service in your restaurant. Pick those things and really hone that in, and really drive that message home.
Recognize
in everything that you do.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. But recognize you can't be the best at everything, and so be the best at what you can be the best at. And the other things, maintain a standard, but don't try and be everything to all people. That just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So here's the last thing that I would like to just kind of wrap this up with. And there are so many aspects to cultural marketing because it's your culture.
Right.
And so you can't just limit this to, here are the 3 things to do for cultural marketing. That doesn't exist. That doesn't work. And so, take some time and think about your own culture. Think about the things that matter in your business, in your industry, with your employees, with your customers.
Yeah.
But here's one that is pretty universal, and so I feel like it's worth mentioning, and we can kind of tie it up with this.
Okay.
Cultural marketing is holistic.
Absolutely.
You can't forget certain aspects of your business. Now, don't get confused with, we just finished telling you not to try and do everything, and now I'm saying, now do everything. No. I'm not saying do everything. I'm saying be aware of all of the things that are adding to your culture.
Yes.
So if you've got an employee who has a rotten attitude, your customers feel it. Whether they interact directly with that with that employee or not, your customers feel it. Why? Because his rotten attitude is now affecting the other employees who now are associating with it, and things are going to slip out. They're going to be like, well, we would have that, that shirt in here for you, but someone forgot to place the order, so I can't help you today. Don't
actually come in tomorrow. You're going to want to come in on Wednesday.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or that employee shows up late, so there's nobody there to help your customers. There are a myriad of different ways that
work
one
with
simple
me, don't
thing.
work with them. What does that message say?
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's a holistic thing. What does your storefront look like? What's the experience that your customers are having? What are they telling their friends online? Are you replying to their online concerns in a positive manner? How do you deal with negativity when the customer is sitting there complaining to you? Are you groveling for their forgiveness? Or are you saying, hey, I'm sorry that you had a bad experience. I'm willing to do this to help you. But at the same token, we stand by what we do, and I'm not going to let you beat me up over this. I mean, there's so many things that go into it. And so I would just say, when you're looking at your cultural marketing, take a step back. Yes. Take a big picture view and ask some other people. Ask your customers. Just flat out ask them and say, hey, what do you appreciate that we do? What do you not like that we do? Yeah. And, getting that honest feedback and doing something with that honest feedback, that's part of that holistic cultural marketing experience.
Yeah. So we want to kind of tie this all in, right? We want to be holistic, and this is a little bit counterintuitive, but we also want to be detailed into our approach of the things that we want to focus on and fix. We want to pick 1 or 2 things.
The top things.
Yes.
So holistic and understanding everything, focusing on the top things.
Right. And be detailed in that approach. Pick one or 2 things, like we said, and set smart goals.
That's what it is. They're smart goals.
Yeah. That's like I got a side hustle. It's one of those.
It's not that bad.
Gets under my skin.
Yeah. Everyone else is fine with it.
I'm sorry.
So with that, We hope that you guys enjoyed listening. We'd love to hear what are some of the things that you have implemented in your culture.
Yes.
So reach out to us. You can find us on Twitter at MMMSmallBiz. So that is MMMSmallBiz. And, reach out, share your comments, let us know. We'd love to hear.